We continue our discussions on the recruitment and placement of workers. This time, our concentration will be on both overseas and local employment. If you can still recall, when we talk about employment promotions, that is now within the power of the Public Employment Service Office, which is pursuant to Republic Act 8759 in its implementing rules and regulations. And this Republic Act was further amended by Republic Act 10691, which requires that all establishment of the Public Employment Service Office in all the provinces, cities, and municipalities shall be linked to the Department of Labor and Employment Regional Office. And under Republic Act 6685 in its implementing rules and regulations, it mandated all the private contractors to whom the national, provincial, city, or municipal public work projects which have been awarded are mandated to hire at least 50% of the unskilled and 30% of the skilled labor requirements from the available bona fide residents in the locality where the infrastructure project is to be undertaken. And the guidelines for the implementation of this project is issued by the Department of Public Works and Highways. And it issued Department Order 130 Series of 2016. BLE, particularly the Bureau of Local Employment, assumed the power of the Bureau of Employment Service. The Overseas Employment Development Board powers and functions is now assumed by the Philippine Overseas Employment Administration. And this is provided under Executive Order number 797, which was issued during the time of Cory government. And the powers are now limited, particularly the POEA powers and functions are now limited to licensing and regulation of the private sector's participation in the recruitment and placement of workers overseas. The original and exclusive jurisdiction over all cases involving money claims arising out of or by virtue of any law, contract of Filipino workers for overseas employment, including seafarers, are now assumed or transferred with the Labor or Regional Arbitration Branch of the National Labor Relations Commission. This is in pursuant to Republic Act 8242 as further amended by Republic Act 122. The functions of the Philippine Overseas Employment Administration on the protection and interest and even the promotion of welfare of the OFW in all phases of overseas employment is now assumed by the Overseas Workers Welfare Administration or OWA, pursuant to Republic Act 10801. The functions includes all legal assistance to the OFW member, also the provision of social and welfare benefit programs and services, and even the prompt appropriate response to global emergencies and crises like the ongoing pandemic is now taken care of by the Overseas Workers Welfare Administration. And not only the OFW member, but likewise their families. The financing of specific projects for the welfare of this OFW and their families, especially when they return here in the Philippines, is now taken care of by the Overseas Workers Welfare Administration. Article 25 of the Labor Code of the Philippines provides for the participation of the private sectors, both local and abroad, in the recruitment and placement of workers. And the guidelines, the rules and regulations, including the circular, or maybe now issued by the Secretary of Labor together with the Philippine Overseas Employment Administration. Article 26 provides a prohibition on travel agencies and sales agencies of airline companies from engaging in the recruitment and placement of workers for overseas employment, whether for profit or not. Articles 27 to 33 of the Labor Code of the Philippines provides for the substantial qualification requirements for private fee-charging employment agencies and private recruitment entities. The number one qualification is the citizenship requirement, wherein at least 75% of the authorized and voting capital stocks in a corporation or partnership or even sole proprietorship must be owned and controlled by Filipinos. The minimum paid up capital is at least 5 million pesos. Other requirements such as but not limited to the security and exchange regulation requirements, like of course the articles of incorporation, the bylaws, the bank certification, the ITR, and even a certification that the the managers or the key official of the private fee charging employment agency or the private recruitment entity must be at least 4 years degree in human resource development or even related or relevant courses. There must be clearances from the appropriate government agencies like the National Bureau of Investigation and even the POEA, particularly the divisions on anti-illegal recruitment. There must be a proof of existence on the new market to be issued by the Philippine Overseas Labor Office of a host country. There must also be a certificate of attendance by the key officers, the manager of the agency in the pre-licensing orientation seminar to be conducted by the Philippine Overseas Employment Administration. There must also be a flow chart of the agency showing the step-by-step procedure in the recruitment and placement. The filing fee is now pegged at 25,000 pesos. With respect to the facilities, the equipment, and other materials that may be used in the recruitment and placement, they all must be POA compliant. The office space must be at least 100 square meter. There must be an organizational chart in a conspicuous place of the agency where it can be seen by anyone who enter the premise, and a license fee or authority fee of around 100,000 pesos and escrow account of at least 1 million pesos. The newly established private fee charging employment agency or the private recruitment entity may be given or issued a provisional license of not exceeding 2 years. For regular license, it must not exceed 4 years, but it can be renewable subject to the compliance of documentary requirements. The license or the authority cannot be transferred, cannot be conveyed, or even assigned to any other person or entity or corporation, especially foreign corporation, considering that we have this citizen requirement. You cannot even circumvent the law or even using the grandfather rule, where there is the interlocking of directors, where you can mix with the foreigners or the alien who would like to invest within the Philippines. The persons applying for private fee charging employment agency for employment assistance shall not be charged any fee unless he has obtained employment through his own effort or has actually commenced employment. The Secretary of Labor may direct all employment agencies to submit the respective reports when the interest of the service so requires, especially on the status of employment, including job vacancies, details of job requisitions, their separation or severance from their jobs, the claim of their wages and other terms, conditions, and benefits of employment, including the employment data. They must furnish report to the Secretary of Labor and Employment or the POEA.